Hello and welcome to another Artis Opus React video. My name is Byron and I'm going to be reacting to and giving advice on viewers miniatures. Today it is a 40k grab bag. I haven't seen any of these minis yet, pretty excited for it. I'm going to be providing my thoughts, feedback, and just, whether I think something is cool on all of these miniatures. If you would like to submit a miniature, then the address is submit@artis-opus.co.uk. Just include any relevant info there if you want me to critique your blending or your stippling, or you didn't like how the plasma glow turned out on something, let me know. Or if there's any useful context like the brand of paints you used or the fact that you're trying to paint the miniature fast for an army, then all of that is useful for me to provide feedback. Yeah, let's jump in. All right, so let's start, as we mean to continue, straight down the middle, Ultramarines Terminator. So this is the first Terminator that Daryl from the UK has ever painted. Got into the hobby during the first lockdown period here in an attempt to stop me from going insane. Hopefully it worked. This is the 11th model he's painted, and he was attempting to push the contrast on the miniature whilst trying to get a smooth blend transitions. Exactly the type of information I was asking for, so this is really helpful. On that kind of top-down shot of the backpack and the shoulder pads, you can definitely see the blending there is pretty good. A couple of points for criticism. Clean up that base rim. It's the right color, but on that rear shot, you can see where your basing color is slit around the edge. Just a quick second go around it will really clean up that line, which will do wonders for it. I think, dude, if you're going to spend any time anywhere, given the style that you're going for, you can clearly paint within the lines, decent color choices, nice blending on the shoulder pad, as I said. So I would put a little bit of time into your edge highlighting. So maybe try using a smaller brush. 00 is pretty good for edging. You can edge with any brush. I find that a smaller one means that you have less of a chance of having too much paint on the brush, which is often what can make the lines thick. And then like that little stepped bit in the backpack, you just don't need that line to be that fat. Now what you can do, depending on how much time you've got, is to do a fat highlight of a color that is almost the same as your base coat, just a tiny shade lighter, and then do a thin highlight within that. If you're not going to do that though, and you are going to pick a bright, highly contrasting one, I don't think you should be doing lines that fat. So the lines around the edge of your guy are pretty good, but I'd just be going for fairly slender lines. You can do that by using the end of your brush and just running it along the edge. Don't try and paint down the line as if it was a pen. Use the side of your brush, run it along and as far as the brush's bristles go, you should be using probably the middle 50% of the brush. So not at the end where it flexes too much, not at the base where you can't fully control it, in the middle, and it should be exiting paint quite nicely, and run it along the edge. I think that'll crisp things up though. But dude, miniature number 11, you should be proud. Hey, we got Orcs. All right then, so this is from Sam Tyler. Thanks for making so much of these reaction videos. It's really great boots on ground way to learn more about painting. You're most welcome, dude. I'm working on a few squads of Orc boys. It's a prime black, base coated with army painter paints, washed all over with Agrax and finished up with more army painter paints. Torn between loving how bright and stark the check is in comparison to the miniature and wishing it was dirtier and scraped up. How can I grunge it whilst keeping that contrast? Very good question. Do you have any suggestions for one or two more steps I could add this paint scheme for my heroes and elites? These are really solid. I mean, for tabletop minis, this is exactly what you should be aiming for. The checks do achieve a lot. The contrast is brilliant, so I completely get why you're asking that. What you could do, dude, is you don't have to grime it down, but you could chip the paint. So that would make it look less clean, but also keep it being super white and super crisp. So I don't think you need to go streaking grime heavy. Would look cool, but I think they're achieving exactly what you want of them now. Just on those, anywhere where it's on metal, you can chip the hell out of it, and that's absolutely fine. You could chip the hell out of your black and the white down to the silver, or you could chip one of them down to the other color. So if you imagine that these were white and then they've painted the black on, you could chip down to the white. And then again, keeping the high contrast and breaking it up. Check out our Flawless Blends hacked video for how I approach chipping down stuff and things like that. I think you could put a bit into the metallics. So another layer of washing on those silvers. The silvers come out pretty solidly. Some other manufacturers make some really nice metallic paints. I use Vallejo Game Air Silver a lot in our videos, as you'll have seen. So if you are looking to go up to something super bright that has wicked coverage, then that could be useful paint to get in your arsenal. Any fluffy bits you've got, like those bits around the head, you could highlight the individual bits of fluff, and you could put some line highlights on their boots or something like that. I think that'd be enough to take them up to the next level. Nice, okay. So Milana Ridwan has painted a bloody great Necron. That looks super effective. That is mega striking, really shiny as well. I think he's used the gloss shade paint on the armor by the looks of it. Looks really nice. It's getting back to Warhammer after 25 years. Regular story for our viewers. So around second edition, thank God YouTube is there to show paint techniques. Also the black rim is a must. So black rim is great. Look at how fine his edge highlighting is on the crystal on that base. They are some tiny baby beautiful crisp lines. Just something of note there. I think they are awesome. Blade's done really nicely. High contrast there, goes pretty much to black in the shaded areas. Looks really effective. The golds are really good. I think the shiny armor works really well. I'm not going to talk about weathering for a change because I think that doesn't fit with the aesthetic of this model. This is a really good miniature, dude. Be massively proud of it. I don't have much to pick on, so I'll pick on one particular aspect. With these glowing sections got around the eyes and on his power fist mitten armor thing, if it's just one color, the glow doesn't look as realistic. So what I would suggest is if we concentrate on the power fist thing first. So if you do like a dark wash of all of the area, and then as you get closer to the source, go lighter in the color of your paints, that will bring more life to it. And instead of looking like you've painted a color on the section, it will look like you've got a glow on the section. That's something key that I change, and you're blatantly capable of doing it because I can see it on the detailing on the back of his power halberd thing. All my 40k knowledge of the weapons and stuff coming to the fore here. That's a great miniature though. Really like the basing, cleanly executed. Be proud. Nice blue towel, very blue towel. This is from Lasse Fischer in Berlin. 12-year break. Everyone's on after their 12-year breaks. Huge fan of the channel. I've been watching it ever since I returned to the hobby last year. Awesome. Thank you very much for your views. So, change the base rims. It's these just don't work, the base rims. They should be black, or they could even be a dark brown or something, but they probably should be black, just to help them separate it. You don't need to do that on the flight stands because they don't really have a rim and it ends up being a bit weird, but you could try and do it fine on them. So obviously we're going for a very alien vibe here with these bright blue tufts. They are hard to not look at, but I get that they are, you know, they are part of your scheme and what you're going for. So I will leave those as is. I would potentially wash them though, because the color is awfully flat within them. So, you know, if you put a dark purple or even a black wash in those, or you dry brushed the same sandy color that you've got in the basing on the tufts, it just hold things together a bit more, and I think that would be a really good step to take. Next time you do stuff on flight stands, have the flight stands separate so they don't get sprayed or painted. It'll just keep them clean. The other option you have is just to paint them black, which I've done in the past. You know, it's a nice way to keep them clean, and then you can do everything glued together in one piece. Pretty solid though, dude. Your edging is fairly tight. You could maybe drop a darker, you know, a shade, one of Citadel's shades or something. You could use that in the recesses to both have an edge highlight on the raised section, and then when it dips down, have a darker color there. I think that would go a long way. Really striking though, and your lenses are very, very good, like really crisp execution on those, and it's a solid color scheme as well. All right, so power armor continues. This is from Cameron in Oregon in the US. I love the miniature feedback videos and wanted a chance at some advice. Have been back in the hobby since the beginning of the pandemic after a 5-year break. Would love your thoughts on the Blood Ravens heavy intercessor gunner I've included, particularly the dark skin tones. My first attempt to dark skin on the mini, and I know it can be better. It is hard, dude. I think lighter skin just gives you an easier approach at a lot of things because it's so much easier to shade the recesses without obscuring detail. I tend to take a color and then add more and more bone into it, going for the highlights. And what else can be helpful, particularly given that you've got a bull dude, is picking like a light point on the head and just make sure that that bit is a bit brighter, and then you'll have a bit more variation in it. I think it's pretty solid though. If anything, I just make the eyes a little bit neater because they stand out amongst it as being a bit too round. Pretty solid though. That kind of like gold you've got is super shiny. I would be interested to know what paint that is. Everything's quite clean on him, but I get that he, you know, he's a Space Marine, so he could just be looking after his armor. But a couple more, given that you've got some chips on him and stuff, I think a couple of washes on the silver sections would go a long way because they look incredibly shiny, which is cool. But given that he's got chipped armor, I think they stand out a bit as an aside from that though. Good color choices, like it, and the base has had a lot of effort in, and you know, looks really effective as a result. Maybe a tiny bit of edge highlighting on him, but overall super solid, man. Taubots. Okay, so back to the hobby after a 17-year break. Everyone is the same. Here are some Tau Crisis suits that I am working on. Moving forward, I think a dry brushing technique would work better, as panel lining everything was a nightmare, and I've had to redo all the grey again. Yeah, panel lining does take time. Very solid scheme though. You know, the blocks work really well on Tau, and it's, you know, it's fitting. They look more like Gundam. Still need to do the base. What color? I need to do the highlights I'm not steady with a fine brush, so not sure on the best approach. You could just highlight a couple of the edges on like the upwards facing bits. If you don't want to highlight everything, man, you either fall into one of two ways for highlighting. You hit every edge from every angle, or you can hit the ones that are facing upwards a bit more. So maybe do that and it'll give you like a third of the amount of highlighting. Concentrate on using the edge of your brush. Don't try and follow the lines. Anywhere where you can, use the edge of the brush, and then, you know, put more time into in the bits where you have to follow the lines, but maybe just try the upwards facing bits. Your glow is very effective, I like that. Basing, you know, it's up to you what environment you want them to be embedded in, but like a warm brown or browny red or sandy one working its way up the feet a bit, I think would look really nice, and that fits with the slate, I think it is, that you've used, or the stones you've used, and the sand, and I think that would, these guys are so clean that it'd be nice to put a little bit of weathering up their feet to embed them in their environment. You know, it looks super striking. Your glow is very effective, man. I think this scheme is extremely effective overall, so you should be super pleased with those. Camo cloaks. Some effort has gone into this basing. Right, so this is from Alex in Stuttgart in Germany. The base is velour texture paste, very old snakebite leather, not the contrast. Wow, historic paints. Reclaimed flesh shade and Kiesler flesh dry brush, finished with army painter tufts, tall shrubberies from Green Stuff World. I like how the bases look, dude. I think it's pretty effective. The areas where your wash hasn't been dry brushed over as much do look a little bit shiny, which I think is detracting from how they could look. Like the bits where there's been more dry brushing on it and it's pulled it back into a more matte spectrum than a shiny one, I think that's where the basing really sings. The camo cloaks are pretty effective. It's a hard effect to make work, it really is, but it's very obvious what you're going for, and I think the type of green you've chosen next to the type of blue you've got, and also with the red involved, your color choices are, you know, really, really spot on with these. They're all quite deep and they're quite interesting. I like the approach you've taken with the rifles. They do look fairly grounded in real life. I like these overall, dude. I think they're really solid. Maybe a little bit of edging or some of your basing working its way onto the feet, but overall, you know, super lovely models. Nice. All right, some shiny something. What is it? This is from Daniel Splaki. Let me know if I got that right. From Hungary. Color scheme inspired by silver skulls. Quick paint job, lead belcher spray, black Templar contrast with metallics. It's easy to make them look good. It's a bit over the place between black, silver, and gold. How do I make them stand out more? Should I introduce a new color or something? I think these are pretty striking, dude. You've got the red on there that really pulls a lot of attention. You've got the white on there from the transfers, which really pulls attention. I love transfers. I'm not very good at them myself, so I respect them all the more for that. You could go to a very bright silver edge highlight, and you could take the gold up, perhaps with a dry brush, even just by taking whatever gold it is you use and adding a bit of silver into that, and adding that. That would be quite solid, but yeah. I think they're striking, mate. If you want to add something different, you could put some skulls or some leaves or something like an additional detail on the base, and that's quite easy and fast and fun as well. So that might be a good approach. Blue lenses pop, they're really nice. Maybe you could put more of that blue on, like some wires or something on the miniature, but I don't think you're lacking for something fairly striking. Like they hold attention pretty well. Right. Marcin. We're not going to try the second one. Good photo, dude, and a pretty clean mini as well. Photo of a canvas painted by me. Come up with the painting scheme on my own from my custom order. One comment from my side, highlights on the cloak and armor are very marginal, and this is done on purpose. Okay, no worries. I think the cloak's pretty good though. You've got one little spill at the end from presumably a contrast, but I think the cloak is pretty solid. Quite similar to the last one, just a little bit, like you've got quite a lot. You've got obvious depth and layers. I think that kind of pastelized blue bodice is absolutely the coolest thing on this. There's a load of depth in that. The colors just work. So I think adding whether it's dry brush or layer or whatever it is, or an edge highlight, an additional step to your silver and your gold would really pop out very nicely. But yeah, it's a pretty solid scheme. You know, it does exactly what you've intended it does. Maybe things like the skull on the bit that's sticking out of her backpack, that could have another quick highlight on it. If you were to take the areas that are facing upwards, are catching the light, and hit them with a little edge highlight or something like that, I think that would really level this one up. Also, if you've got details like rivets, like here you have on the glove, the studs, I guess they are on that, make sure all of those are picked out, because that works wonders everywhere. You could also pick up the buttons on the already awesome bodice thing. All right, what is this? This is a conversion, 30K, I guess. I like some feedback on the weathering on this mini. It's glossy and everything that I do makes it look fake and dull. Thanks for the feedback. Love the laid back vibe and the upbuilding comments. Love your dry brush work and the great unclean as well. Thank you. So this is from Dirk from the Netherlands. Well applied transfer, or what? Yeah, the transfers are well applied. So what we have here is we've got a glossy mini, and Dirk wants to know how to weather it without making it look dull. So what I think you should do, Dirk, there's a couple of ways to get a similar effect, but you should either be using heavily watered down paints or indeed fairly watered down pigments. And what they will do is you can have those so they run into the recesses, and then using a reductive technique, so grabbing a cotton bud Q-tip if you're American, and just taking it off the raised sections and just leaving it in the recesses. This is how people use streaking grime, so give that a Google. That will both maintain the finish you've tried to achieve on the model whilst adding some, dusty stuff in the recesses or whatever, and that way you won't pull away from the gloss, but you will manage to make it, look dusty further down or in the recesses. Nice, this is cool, nice blue. So this is from Ben Pollard in the UK. Been painting for about a year. This is my slightly converted Inquisitorial Acolyte. Probably the best model I've painted. I hope you appreciate the black base rim. I do. Painted using Series S, best brushes I've ever used, thank you. Pretty cool model. Fairly good concept of where your highlights should go. I think the thing for me, I get that it's meant to be leathery, but it looks like probably or possibly due to use of contrast, his clothing is quite shiny, which is just fairly unforgiving, because if you've got a shiny surface and then your highlights are not as shiny, they're going to stand out as different. So what you could do here is either whatever's making it shiny, if it's a contrast, you could varnish after that step, or that's probably the way I'd do it actually. Yeah, you could varnish after that step, or you could paint all of it and then varnish all of it. But what you've got here is your edge highlights are looking worse than they are because they are more matte than the surface they're going on, so they just stand out as different basically. But the mini's really solid overall. Maybe you could have gone slightly lighter on like his bedroll on his backpack or a couple of other details like that, but it's solid, cleanly executed, then it's got a cool vibe as well, so I like it. Right, so spent a long time on this miniature of Hector Rex. Would like to know any advice you could give me for this model or your thoughts. Make sure the rim was black. This is from Jack Sunaway. Nice purple to like that magenta purple fade on the cloak is really good, as is the choice of the gold next to it. For me, definitely that's the strongest part of the mini. Okay, so because this is a Forge World mini, it is harder to get things to look clean. That's just part and parcel of using Forge World over plastic, so I won't comment on that, but what I think it does mean is that you have to put extra effort into making sure stuff, you go above and beyond to make sure stuff looks clean, which can make panel lining or painting hair or skin particularly hard or achieving crisp edges. A couple of things, anywhere where you've got rivets, like on the little bit sticking above his head, make sure they're dotted, something that I never shut up about. Maybe just a little bit of an edge highlight to make the white pop, because it's quite an important aspect of the model. So maybe just on the upwards facing parts of it, or like knuckles or bits that are obviously sticking out like that, you could do that. But I think it's good, dude. Solid color choices. And the purple, the cloak is absolutely fantastic. Like really, really, really nice. Would love to see a shot of it from the back, it's awesome. So yeah, just that, and then maybe a little wash on like the wings on his shoulder on the gold details or something like that, just to add a bit of depth to them. I'm sure that'd go a long way, but it looks awesome. Wow, striking colors, that's some crisp painting. Okay, this is from the Bulkmot in France. I've probably butchered that. Watching the channel for quite a while, wanted to share some Harlequins I've been painting recently. After painting several armies, I wanted this one to be the absolute best I could produce. I assume you've smashed that gold, dude. They look amazing. Here's a member of my most recent unit. The scheme is orange and purple, two of my favorite colors. Two of mine too. Dude, these are really nice. I'm gonna have to nitpick to provide any criticism for them, but I just think they're really solid. I also think your choice of basing is extremely bold and perfect. Like really, really very, very good. It's all about the minis, how bright they are, how wonderful they are. I've referenced Gareth Nichols in previous videos, who was known as Glazed Over on the internet. He was famous for having, gorgeous, smooth, vibrant reds on Blood Angels a lot of the time, and his other miniatures are always lovely. And he showcased his Blood Angels by having kind of similar colors to these bases. It just makes sure that you look at the mini, which is what it should all be about. Maybe gloss the gems. That could be something that was worth doing. And aside from that, mate, it's just you've given yourself something really hard to do. Your blending is slightly smoother on the orange than I would say it is on the purple. The blue is pretty nice too. So it looks like you've chosen, in that orange to yellow section, you've just chosen colors that work better together. It means your purple are good color choices, but maybe they're just not as easy to play with, or maybe you're highlighting into a bony color rather than a lighter pastel purple. So just a little bit of glazing to ease that transition, like, you know, take pretty much all the paint off your brush, have it heavily diluted, and then push into the section that you want to be darker, hold your mini in the right rotation to make that easy. But yeah, they're wonderful. You should be really, really proud of those. They're gorgeous. Nice. All right, and so my very first mini from John, who has let me know it's Jan, or Jan from Poland. Thank you very much. Bloody hell, nearly swore there. First mini, that is great. That's really, really good. Check out the highlighting on the silver, whatever color we've used on the metallics on the chest, really good. Shoulder pads could be cleaned up a little bit. We've got some kind of different work in progress shots here, but I just work on, like, your black is pretty effective. Finish off the base, that'll make a big difference to him. And then it's just, you know, you're at the very beginning of your miniature painting journey, so the things to concentrate for me at that point are clean flat base coats. If you want something to be crisp, do take the time, you know, take 2 or 3 steps to make something white if that's required, because you'll get a smoother job on it. And then the next step would probably be working your way to edge highlighting, or painting, if you don't want to do the edge highlighting, painting stuff slightly lighter than you would like, and then washing it down to make it darker, either of those 2 approaches. But that's a really solid first mini, dude. Very, very, very nice. If you put this guy on like a reddy brown base and work the color of the basing up his shoes a little bit to embed him in his environment, I think that would add a lot. If you check out our Dark Angel video or our Black Templars video, either of those would be a good reference for that. But that's a great first mini man, and good color choices as well. Like, they work solidly together. You're onto a good one. Nice. Nurgle. So this is from Yuho from Finland. It's just solid. I love Nurgle. Really love Nurgle. Nice colors here, all kind of kept within the same scheme. That gem and those pustules are really popping out. I decided to send you some pictures of my recently painted fetid bloat drone, actually my first 40k model. Done some fun weathering stuff using typhus corrosion and watered down scrag brown. There's also some layering. Tell me how you like it and if you have any suggestions for improvement. I think it's awesome, dude. Really, really nice. 2 areas that I would add something to this model on would be adding a bit more depth into that kind of tarnished bronzy gold. You could use a wash over it, or you could put some verdigris on it and that would fit beautifully. And then it's just putting gloss on the slime, basically. I think making it more shiny would go a long way, where you've got it kind of touching between those horns on the back section of the model. Just making them shiny would give you some opportunity for some contrast on the piece, but it's very nicely executed, good color choices, and it, you know, it looks very perfectly Nurgly, basically. All right, we have Killican. Sorry about the base room. Saw that at the bottom. Enjoying your videos a lot and following some of your guides and taking a note of others. I do look to improve my blending. We all do. Only been painting about 4 years since a long hiatus, and decided to start an Orc army, and from there, here is my Death Dread. Anything that drastically stands out I could do is make it better or correct, and advice or tips would be great. Thank you for your time. I mean, this is clean, dude. It's solid. Good color choices. Nice sponging, I presume, on the white. Yeah, it does look like sponging. Looks like you've weathered it the same way on the black. Be careful with the sponging, because if you go too heavy on it, or depending on the texture of your sponge actually and how much paint you have on it, anywhere where it looks like it's kind of like a spray of weathering rather than individual chunks, I would be wary of. And particularly pay attention to where, you know, you should be weathering more on the bits that stick out. So you've weathered in this fairly recessed section on top of him. I don't think the weathering would be hitting there nearly as much as it would be elbows, you know, knuckles, on his weapon, that type of thing. So I would, the weathering is solid, take it more to the bits that would be, you know, getting contacted in battle. Be a little bit more delicate with the verdigris. That's something that I've come afoul of in the past, but especially your white and the chipping section on his face, like really, really good work. Nice little pops and spots of different colors around on it. Great, like really, really good. All right, this is clean. So this is from Marty Milligan from Ireland. Any feedback would be appreciated, perhaps on the weapon, as I'm not fully happy with it. Should I stay with a metal looking blade or perhaps go a green blade route? Green blade would look cool, and this is exactly the type of blade that is screaming out, you know, a nice fade one way, on one aspect of the blade and a nice fade the other way. Pop it down and give it a go. You've already got green on the model, but you could take the same green and then just go to a lighter yellow green, and that would look really nice. Your highlighting and your color for the bone is just like pretty great, really. I really like the colors you've chosen to achieve that with. I think it's very effective. Dialed back base works well for this, I think, and just helps exhibit the model really nicely. Yeah, I would give a colored blade a go. Definitely give it a go and then send it back to us and I can react to it. But that looks really striking. I would love to see a unit of these. Nice. Okay, so this is from Michelle or Michael, apologies, which one of those it is, from Rome. Custom chapters and Marines, the Wardens of the Seed, plant-themed colors on it. Quite like the greens, actually. Tips on how to do all over glazing without making it look so patchy. Happy to hear feedback on how to proceed. All over washes. I use these a lot. I use contrast a fair bit these days. It's just about controlling it where it's pooling. So if it looks like it's collecting overly in any one section while it is still wet, not while it is partially wet or partially dry, because they're both bad. You just have to be willing to coax it into the bits you want and to remove it from the bits where you don't want it. I know that sounds like a slight oversimplification, but if you go back and watch our recent Blood Knight video or anything like that, you'll see that I put quite a lot of effort into, I put the wash down and then I make sure it's where I want it and I give it one last check before it's dried, and just break the mini down into sections, especially easy on Space Marines. You could do like right leg, left leg, backpack, shoulder. Break it down into sections and just take a bit more time on it. It's going to achieve quite a lot in your paint job, so the time is justified, and the better job you do on that, the faster and the more helpful it is to the rest of your mini. I think it's nice colors though. I would clean up the line around the white shoulder. So it looks like you've got gold on the shoulder and then you've got a sepia wash which is transitioning into the white. What that's doing is it's making it look like the gold kind of just blends into the white and you don't have a separation between the two. So I would repaint, rebase that shoulder white, wash it with like maybe even Null Oil. I know it sounds a bit extreme, but carefully dot it into the recess, then hit it with a white again, and what you'll have is you'll have a nice bit where one bit starts, one bit ends, and you'll have a black line between the two of those, and that'll just help separate the different sections. It's a cool color scheme though, really like it, would like to see it based as well. That is striking. What a combination of colors. Okay, so this is from Paul Gibbs in Wakefield in the UK. Fairly new to trying OSL, object source lighting, so when something is glowing on something else, and would like a bit of feedback if possible. Also, it's the first time I've tried to do a two-tone power sword. How does it look? OSL is tricky. It's definitely something that a lot of hobbyists struggle with. The power sword is really solid, dude. I think the fade works really nicely. Just striking. Not sure if you've done it the way from our tutorials, but whichever way you've approached it, I would say it's been a success. So nothing to worry about there. Clean flames, clean color choices, crisp edge highlighting. I would dry brush up the ray section of your base a little further, just to make it look a little bit less wet and kind of give everything the same finishing color, so those lines don't look quite as extreme that are separating the different sections between the green and the beige. I think the power sword's great. I think this model is great. Overall, the color choices are really tasty. Like that slightly off blue gray detail color you've got on the one arm and the head is great, and his like the cartoony black shading on that mask is baller, so just think it's great. Really like this. Just an army like that you would not be able to not look at an army like that. That is the end. Really high quality in this one. A lot of people who have formerly been in the hobby and come back to it. You can see people are really trying to push themselves in terms of what they do. If you would like to submit a model, submit at artis-opus.co.uk. That'd be amazing. Include any notes that are going to be useful. And if you've enjoyed this video, please let us know. If you'd like to see something else, or another themed one, or you just want to see a big medley of everything we've been sent rather than 40k or vehicles or whatever, then let us know that. Thank you very much. Please like, please comment, please subscribe. If you are subscribed, hit that bell notification to be notified of future content, as we do really appreciate it. Whenever people tune in and give their thoughts on their lives in particular, it's just nice to get involved and have a chat with you guys. Anyway, thank you very much, and I'll catch you in the next video.